These entities have the ability to telepathically communicate with people. But still, I continued praying to God even in those moments because I was unaware of what I was involved in. You might begin to experience things like objects moving on their own, sudden malfunction in electronics. Their goal is to keep you away from God and to stray you from His path. The true awakening begins when it is said that meeting a twin flame is a catalyst for a spiritual awakening. Have you ever wondered why? In this episode, we're going to be talking about the reasons behind this mystery and explore spiritual awakening from the lens of a twin flame connection. So without further ado, let's get to it. Many of us found ourselves unprepared for the spiritual awakening that followed after we met our twin flame. Despite this lack of readiness, we were thrust into this experience and had to navigate its ups and downs. During the separation phase of your twin flame relationship, it's highly likely that you formed a soul tie with your twin flame counterpart. This soul tie serves as a gateway to which the spiritual entities behind this connection use to infiltrate. It also gives them the opportunity to carry out their assignment. And once this portal has been opened, you can't control what comes in. And like I mentioned in my previous episode, this legal right is the primary purpose of this union. Following this portal that has been opened, it may seem as though everything is falling apart, especially when you reach rock bottom. This series of events might trigger a deep introspection, and you begin to question the purpose and meaning of life, coupled with the fact that the person who was meant to be the one suddenly disappeared, bringing out all your insecurities to the surface. In those vulnerable moments, you may begin to search for answers, but then you begin to seek it from the wrong source. Now, here is the main point here. When you go through traumatic events, your sensitivity to the energies around you becomes heightened. You might start to experience lucid dreams, increased synchronicities, or ringing in your ears. You might begin to hear voices, especially during the transition between sleep and wakefulness. And this is you tuning into the energies around you. Remember, the ones you open the doors to unknowingly through the soul tie. Now let's delve into what the spiritual entities are. These are marine spirits. The spirit spouse in particular is a marine spirit attached to the divine masculine vessel. You can also go ahead and do your due diligence on this. Do your research, pray about it, and compare the personalities of those who are under the possession of the marine spirits and compare it with that of the divine masculine. These entities have the ability to telepathically communicate with people, which emphasizes the need for discernment on what thoughts are yours and what are not. And sometimes when you feel like you're receiving telepathic messages from your twin flame or you're receiving spiritual downloads, it's from these spiritual entities around you. And this holds true for both counterparts, not just you. And engaging in the unseen world may appear fascinating. Like when we are doing our spiritual awakening process and we're talking with our spirit guides and all the activities we do, whatever that is, the crucial thing here is to be mindful of the doors that we are opening, and not just to yourself, but in your bloodline as well, because these things are transferable. So please try not to delve into things without knowledge or the nature of it, which is something that I've learned myself. You've begun communicating with these entities depending on how far you've gone on your spiritual awakening journey. And maybe you begin to perceive them as your spirit guides. And let me emphasize that spiritual awakening itself is not a bad thing. But the question is, what are you awakening to? Especially through this twin flame route. I found myself deeply immersed in these experiences. I used to communicate with these entities, believing them to be my angels or spirit guides. I use pendulum to seek answers from them on what to do, yes or no. But still, I continued praying to God, even in those moments, because I was unaware of what I was involved in. Because I thought it was all spiritual practices and it was all getting closer to my God and my angels. I was also heavily involved in these angel numbers, and I'll talk about that in another episode because I don't want to. It's the spiritual awakening process is a very broad topic. These entities are also responsible for the synchronicities and all the paranormal activities you experience during this process. You might begin to experience things like objects moving on their own, sudden malfunction in electronics, as it is sensation of being watched with nobody there, unexplained scents or fragrances in the house, like you could just have the smell out of nowhere, like a presence but you can't see it. Or you feel like you're sharing your bed with someone. Their goal is to keep you away from God and to stray you from His path. And how do they do this? We all know that the twin flame concept is all man-made and it's never found in the words of God. This should have actually been a warning or a signal. But however, due to the circumstances that we found ourselves in, we fell into the teachings of the New Age movement. And when you begin to associate other gods with God and other practices, not only is this sinful, it drifts you away from God. Now, here's the tricky part. You awaken the Kundalini spirit within you. The thing is, when the devil can get you to do something, it will try to deceive you into doing it with your consent, and it won't come in its true nature. It is presented to you in a very nice package, so you won't know. The most vulnerable you are to demonic possession is when you are disconnected from God. I know I mentioned in one of my previous episodes that as a believer you cannot be possessed, but can be influenced. But what happens when a lion is caged and it signals to you? It can harm you from where it's caged, but if you walk into the cage yourself, what happens? And I'll leave that to you to analyze. When we begin to practice the occult through things we do innocently, unaware of what we are opening ourselves to, that's what makes it deceptive actually. Most people don't understand the dangers of these practices, and that's why I'm trying to help you understand this as someone who's experienced it too. As much as we like to believe that the twin flame relationship triggers a spiritual awakening, the truth is it actually puts you in a spiritual slumber. It strips you of your true essence and replaces it with a counterfeit. You are encouraged to accept whatever you're going through as part of clearing your karma and engaging in shadow work, inner child healing, which sounds like a good thing. But when you continue to view everything as merely clearing your karma and justifying your suffering without realizing the spiritual warfare happening around you, then you're spiritually asleep. And if you're experiencing any of these signs that I'm about to list, and note that some of them don't necessarily mean that you're going through spiritual warfare. However, if you're experiencing most of this on the list, then please don't overlook it, okay? So watch out for signs like sexual activities in your dream, flying or falling in the dream, dreaming of being caged or locked up in a building with no escape, eating in the dream, being chased in the dream, seeing snakes in the dream, and seeing yourself in a large body of water. Now let's talk about the physical signs. Feeling of being watched when there's nobody around, excessive muscle twitching for no apparent reason, heart palpitation without cause, crying for no reason, light flickering, objects moving around you, changes in bowel movement, body vibration during sleep, experiencing sleep paralysis, involuntary body movement, heightened anxiety and depression, sleeping excessively or having difficulty sleeping at night, negative thoughts and thoughts of self-harm, obsessive thoughts that feel uncontrollable, experiencing sensation of seeing, hearing, or feeling things that are not real. This particular ones that I'm mentioning can also be caused due to medical reasons, so please seek your medical care provider. But if you're having difficulty concentrating, performing daily tasks, lack of motivation, feeling like life has lost its meaning, and loss of consciousness intermittently, like you just feel like you're gone and then you're back to your, like, okay, what happened? Feeling excessively cold or hot without explanation. Keyword: without explanation. During this period, it's as if you're under a spell, unable to discern reality from illusion. It feels like you're trapped in a never-ending cycle, wandering in a dark room, and you just have to keep going, even when you can't see everything that surrounds you. Because in this time, in this period, your intuition is blocked. But when the light is turned on, and you see everything that you've been in, that's when the true awakening begins. The true awakening begins when that spell breaks and you realize that you've been in the enemy territory all along without even knowing it. It starts when you bravely fight your way out of this deception. The true awakening begins when you have to confront the root cause of this. The journey doesn't just open you to the truth about your twin flame, it also reveals the truth about your core existence and why you were chosen for this, and why you've been a target all along, and why you've been repeating the same cycles, different relationships, same pattern. The true awakening begins when you realize all that has been stolen from you and you have to fight your way to get it back. It begins when you break free from this cage and awaken from your slumber. And when you understand that the unconditional love that you've been searching for has always been present in God all along. Despite associating others with Him, He saved you, even when He didn't have to. He protected you even when you were in sin. It's always been God's never-ending love. And in this understanding, the soul finds true freedom and peace. All the soul grief, all the emptiness that you felt during this process, during this twin flame journey, when God steps in, when you redirect your step back to Him, you find peace. Even when you don't have your twin flame, it's just peaceful and this joy that you cannot even explain. And no one can give you that unconditional love but God. So in summary, the reason why the twin flame relationship triggers a spiritual awakening is because of the presence of the spiritual forces around you, accessed through the portal opened by the soul tie that you have with your twin flame, and you tuning into their guidance and initiation into the occult. So thank you for listening, and that's all for today. I'll see you in the next episode.